My life before I became a follower of Jesus, it was a period in which I was consumed by the love of money. My name is Manoj and this is my story. I was a businessman, a property trader, and my whole world revolved around trying to buy as many blocks as I could throughout the UK to essentially make the most amount of money that I could physically make in my lifetime. In terms of my business, 2008 was going to be the big year for us. But then we all know what happened in 2008. The mortgage market collapsed. For me, the credit crunch was like literally being in an earthquake. Everything just started to crumble overnight. It was during that same time that my son also became ill. He was rushed to hospital and he was rushed into resuscitation, where essentially he stopped breathing and there were all kinds of complications. But what do you do when you're ushered into the room next door? I turned to God in the hope that he would somehow come and help us. My son was transferred to St. Thomas's in London. And then the consultant comes and sees us on the fourth day and says, "I'm really sorry, but your son is not going to open his eyes for some time yet." They were still trying to work out what was going on. And yet what was resonating throughout the 4 days was the fact that this American couple that had come over from the States, we'd recently befriended them and they were praying. It really impacted me because they called us so many times and talked about the church lifting up my son in prayer. And it really gave me a lift. And what really impacted me was the fact that this lady in particular collapsed on the floor and wept for my son. There was something there that I felt that she had that was different. So on that fourth day, the consultant had said to us, "Your son is not going to open his eyes for some time yet." And as she did the ward round, my son suddenly literally just bolted upright in bed. And as you can imagine, there's so much elation and there's so much joy. And I remember turning to my wife and said to her that, when we get out of this hospital, let's just go to that couple's church that prayed for our son. It was a big sort of experience that I had in that church, in the sense that I literally walked out a different person. My wife really didn't recognize me. My mother thought I'd joined some kind of cult because suddenly I wanted to try and do everything differently, particularly in the area of business. Before that, I was very arrogant, very ruthless, very money driven. And as someone who had essentially lived such a sinful life, and in the midst of all of that sin, there's a God that says, "I forgive you and I'm going to wipe the slate clean." Now, how do you get your head around that?